Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Ghosts and Spirits videos. Now that my other encounters videos involving cryptids and monsters and then also aliens and UFOs have enjoyed some good views, good comments, good likes, I thought why not extend it here when it comes to the world of ghosts and spirits. Talk about real encounters that people have had with ghosts and then share my own thoughts on it afterward. So in this case, this comes from the reddit.com website. They're from a subreddit called Real Ghost Stories, and I'm going to showcase two tales here, both of them involving creepy and scary encounters that people have had with ghosts, and I'd love to hear what your comments are on them afterward. The first one comes from a user by the name of clean_inflation 6189. They titled theirs, I brought them with me. And then the next one comes from a user by the name of ectoplasm underscore glory 33, and they titled it The Bearded Man. So let's go ahead and let's share both of their encounters here, and then again I'll give my own thoughts on it afterward. So here's the first one, the one again that's titled I Brought Them With Me. So the women in my family have always spoken about those that follow us. In this generation, however, my sisters and I, we tend to dismiss it. Not to say we don't feel, hear, or dream about them. We just choose to ignore them. While my mother acknowledged the gift, she never mentioned it or taught us to nurture it. That doesn't mean we didn't experience it, just that we were taught to ignore it. We are still beacons. They see us and know we can hear and feel them. There are many stories, but this one is mine alone. So my husband and I moved into our current home about 5 years ago. It backed up to the property that used to house the community pool I spent my youth in. I made sure both of my sisters visited as soon as the keys were in my hand. It was a small test. They wouldn't say anything, but I'd know by their reaction if there was anything here. Nothing. They gave me nothing, so I thought it was all good. I was proven wrong, though, within 1 week. I was up early one morning, like 5 a.m. I went outside to drink my coffee. It was hot, like 85 degrees with 90% humidity. I was rethinking my outside perch when the right side of my face froze. Our house is L-shaped, and I was sitting under the overhang with my right side facing the house. Even if a rigid freeze did blow, I would not have felt it on that side. Just as I was thinking how weird it was, I heard a name whisper, Jackie, and I had not thought about her in years. She was a swim instructor from the community pool that my yard backed up into. To the 7-year-old me, she was perfect. I wanted to be just like her. She drove a convertible and looked like Barbie. She moved to California with her fiance when I was about 10, and he was the perfect Ken. A few years later, I was told that she had died. No details, just that she had passed, and it would be about another 10 years until I learned the truth. She drove that convertible off a cliff to escape the abusive, alcoholic Ken. I brushed off the experience and went back into the AC as soon as I put out my cigarette. Obviously, it was simply the close proximity to the pool, or rather where it was, that brought back her name from the depths of memory. And so my mom called later that morning and said, "You'll never believe what I just found in the junk drawer." Seriously, it could have been anything. And despite my dad's best efforts, Mom was still a pack rat. She sent me a picture of a photo she had found. Cell phones just didn't exist when I was young. And there stood a 10-year-old me with my best friend at the pool and Jackie right between us. This had been our last lesson. She left the next day with her fiance. I was a beacon. She saw me. And a year later, I learned that she had grown up right next door. Her parents had long since moved on, but I felt like she felt a familiar energy in a familiar place and decided to reach out. And then that's it. That's everything that the user clean_inflation 6189 states. Lots of good stuff to talk about here. For starters, there's the idea that she's a beacon, as she mentioned several times, someone with a gift, someone that no matter where they go, they'll always have ghosts that essentially introduce themselves or see her as someone that they can talk to because, as she mentioned in a very interesting line, She sees them, they see her, and they know that she can hear and feel them. So she's one of those few people that just happens to have that. I've run into few people like that in my life, especially not just in my ghost group, but also in some of the other tours that I've attended. Some of the ghost guides there state that they have that gift too. I wonder if anyone else here has that as well. Anyone listening to this now, where automatically wherever you go, it's like these ghosts are popping up out of nowhere because they know someone is there that can see, feel, and hear them. And so I'm wondering if anyone would like to share their comments on that too. But how about that? She moved into this house that happened to be right by the community pool that she would visit as a youngster. And then she had that person there that she was just always just enamored with, this lady named Jackie. And then this Jackie ended up having that horrible situation, that abusive husband, and then she ended up driving herself pretty much to suicide with that convertible. And then this Jackie knew that this person was there, that she had moved almost like in a full circle back to this home, back next to that community pool where they used to hang out. And she said hello, like she wanted to absolutely make her presence known. Kind of creepy, but at the same time, kind of lighthearted with the way that she again brought herself forward to an old friend. Interesting stuff. I'd love to hear again what your thoughts are, if those of you that are beacons and run into this stuff. Now, the next one again is from ectoplasm _of glory 33, and he calls it the bearded man. So there's essentially what they state. From the time I was about 6 to 14, my family lived in a really old house in a small town in Lower Alabama. The original parts of the house were built in the mid to late 1800s, and the rest were added around the 1920s. The oldest part of the house was my bedroom that I shared with my two siblings. There was a boarded up fireplace and then a small door that led right up to the attic space. We kept a dresser in front of the door because we would hear things up there all the time and it would freak us out. It was, in summary, a very old and creepy house. Well, not long after we moved in, I remember seeing things out of the corner of my eye, like people in the corners. But by the time I would look, there would be nothing there, nor anything that could be mistaken for it. This continued even as I got older, but I had started getting used to it. One figure in particular had become a near constant. My 6-year-old brain thought he looked like Santa, but as I got older, I referred to him as the bearded man. This was an old man by appearance. He was dressed how, at the time, I would say an Amish man dresses, like farming overalls and a collared old shirt, and he had a long beard and long hair. It was always a glimpse here and there in the corner of the rooms or out the window, but one night I was startled awake. I had rolled over onto my back because I was having trouble sleeping, and I opened my eyes to see this bearded man standing over me, just staring. After a few blinks, he was gone. This happened 2 more times while living in that house. We eventually moved and I grew up. I figured I had imagined it because I was just a kid. Several years later, though, my mom injured her back and I took on helping her with her overnight job that involved being in a vehicle alone for 8 hours a night. We talked about the old house to pass the time, and she mentioned that she thought it was haunted. She told me she had seen a man that wasn't there right out of the corner of her eye all the time, and that she woke up with him standing over her a few times. And when she described him exactly as I remember him. She told me she thought she was going crazy because my dad never saw him. And we later asked my siblings and my sister. They had the same story we did. And then my brother said he never saw anything. And so to this day, I definitely believe in ghosts. And then that's it. That's everything that this user mentioned about the bearded man. So lots of good stuff to talk about here. This case is happening in Lower Alabama. Really old house. Imagine that. Built in the late 1800s, maybe even the mid 1800s. Just goes to show the time period, like how differently houses were built if they can last that long. It doesn't seem like today's houses could last more than, let's say a couple of 10 plus years or so. But yeah, something like this is really interesting. Like the older the house, you definitely going to have some experience. Somewhere in that time, that's where this bearded man was. Also, did anyone catch the theme that he's pretty much only making himself seen to the women, the husband and the brothers? They didn't really have any interactions with him, but the women involving the sisters and the mom, they would see the same thing, like something out of the corner of their eyes, and then looking at that direction, it's gone. And then clearly there was nothing there. Creepy stuff about the attic too. Imagine just hearing something up there all the time, knowing you're alone, knowing somebody else shouldn't be up there, and then it's clear that it sounds like people are walking or somebody's shuffling around, moving things, and so on. That would be a unsettling thing because you're almost like trying to do your own thing, either read a book or let's say watch a movie, do something else, color, and then there's this noise just constantly in the background reminding you, hey, you've got scary ghosts up there. But obviously the scariest part was having this man just staring at them out there in the middle of the night, just giving them the heebie-jeebies as they were there, and then not knowing, of course, when he would next pop up and what he would do and so on. So interesting stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So, all right, everybody. Thanks again as always. I'd love to hear what your comments are. Let me know if you want to see or hear more of these encounters videos involving ghosts and spirits, and I'll definitely try to do some more. All right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care. Bye.